Hi, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate Rural Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. I do have my disclaimer. The views of the host may not represent those of the station or the host. Please always consult with your primary care physician for any medical issues and consult your attorney for any legal matters. Folks, I have a wonderful guest with me today, and if you're not a caregiver, chances are you're going to be one, and you're going to need to hear what my guest has to say today about caregiver burnout. And if you are a caregiver, you definitely need to listen to that. I think we've all experienced caregiver burnout. What is it? How you can prevent it? Well, my guest today, Debbie Compton, is going to talk about that. She is author of several books. One is Caregiving, How to Hold On While Letting Go, which I highly recommend. Debbie also has the various coloring books, spiritual book, which she was kind enough to send me, Sonshine for the Soul. I love it. It's a delightful book, a collection of inspirational quotes, encouraging Bible verses, and original funny bloopers. We are going to have the link to Debbie's Amazon page in the blog. Debbie is also a PAC Certified Caregiving Consultant and Advocate, as well as Community Educator for the Alzheimer's Association. She has a website, www.thepurplevine.com. She does consulting. She helps caregivers. She was a caregiver herself and still is. And I want to welcome my friend, Debbie Compton, to Chatting with Betsy. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. Good morning, Betsy. It's so good to talk to you.
Good morning. Thank you. It's great to talk to you. Folks, yesterday we were almost done, and my connection dropped. Hopefully it won't drop today. Keep my fingers crossed. Yes. I just want to also tell the audience, we're not going to talk about Debbie's book about caregiving because Debbie was on in August, around August 28th. So go back and look at that, look it up and see if you can find it, and please listen to it. I also want to recommend, that's why I say subscribe to Chatting with Betsy. It is for free, so you don't miss any shows of my phenomenal guests. And I'm on iHeart, Spreaker, YouTube, and Spotify, just to name a few. And Debbie's name on Amazon is Debbie Compton. But I will talk about the Sonshine for the Soul. If you are spiritual, faith, you are a Christian, even if you're not a Christian, you will enjoy this book. It's very funny. The bloopers from your mom's church bulletins cracked me up. It's just a wonderful, delightful book when you need to smile. So I want to thank you for sending that to me, Debbie. I really enjoy it.
Well, you're very welcome, and I'm glad you enjoy it. If I could tell you just a little background on that book, because everything that I do is family-oriented, and my dad was a preacher of a small country church. And if you know anything about those, when there's a job in a small church that no one wants to do, the pastor's wife gets to do it. And so my mom became the bulletin maker. So she was typing up the order of service on a typewriter with no spell check, no autocorrect, no proofreaders, and 4 teenagers running around the house. So a little bit of distraction, a lot going on, and as a result, there were some mistakes made in the bulletin. But I can only imagine, I mean, you get down towards the very bottom of the page and you make a mistake, and it's like, is it really that bad? Nah, they'll figure it out, you know. So I was caregiving for my dad, who passed away of Parkinson's, and after he passed, I was going through his things, and I found his briefcase, and in it he had kept a lot of those old bulletins. And I opened it up and was reading them, and they just cracked me up. It was so funny. And I thought, man, I've got to share this with people. And at the same time, I was caregiving for my mom with vascular dementia and was trying to keep her reading and engaged because, reading keeps the mind connected with reality. It keeps the meaning of the words attached in the brain, and it's great brain exercise. As you know, you're an avid reader. So, but it was getting more stressful with Mom because she still loved to read, but she couldn't follow the plots, and she couldn't remember the characters. And so I was having to explain continuously who it was, why they were doing this, what was going on, and it was getting really frustrating for me. And that's when I found these bulletins, and I thought, you know what, we can do this. So I put together Sonshine for the Soul, and it's S-O-N, Sonshine, and it has a scripture first, and it's large font so that Mom could read it because her eyesight was getting worse. And so it has a scripture verse first because that brings comfort and encouragement and just makes her feel better and increases her mood. So it has one of those really in really big font, and then it will have a couple of funny stories that are almost every one of them are real stories from our life or bulletin bloopers, and which is what I call them, little mistakes in the bulletins, things like that. And then it'll have a quote from a famous person, and the famous person can be a judge, an actor, or Billy Graham or Dr. Seuss. It's just it's something inspirational from them. So, and that pattern repeats itself throughout the book. So you can start at the beginning, the middle, or the end. It doesn't matter. You can read it back to front. It doesn't matter. But it will just make you laugh. It'll brighten your day, and it'll make you feel better. So that's why I created Sonshine for the Soul.
Yes, I was just reading it, actually, while I was waiting for you to come on. And I just have to say that I love the cover of the book because you see the sunlight, daisies. I love daisies, my favorite flower. And a woman with a bonnet on, a flower. It's just very pretty, and it cracked me up because one of the little stories you were telling was you asked your son, you texted your son when he was coming, and you did the initials WTF, and he's like, Mom, do you know what that means? And you're like, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Not even close. I had to laugh. Excuse me.
I know.
It's very
I was being smart and using little, because
that's
I
funny.
abbreviate everything. And WTF sounded like Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday to me.
That is so funny, and I thought that cracked me up. And I love the big print because that's good for someone like me. I have to take my glasses off to read it, but I mean it's just a delightful book that I highly recommend. A great gift to give to a caregiver, a great gift to give to anyone at any time. And I want to get into our topic, Debbie. You are a caregiver. You care for your dad, your mom-in-law. You're caring for your mom. God bless you.
Thank you.
I've experienced caregiver burnout before, there was a name given to it. You experienced it. How does someone know that they have it, and what can they do not to have it? Because I sure wish I knew that way back when.
Right. Same here. Well, I was much like you. When I went through it, I didn't even know there was a name for it, and I didn't know the warning signs. I didn't know anything about it. And that's a lot of why I do what I do, because I want to help caregivers understand and avoid some of the mistakes that I made so that they can live happier and less stressful. So I think before we discuss caregiver burnout, we need to actually kind of give it a little bit of a definition, and so that we can all get on the same page. And what it is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion. I mean, it is when you are at the end of your rope. You don't feel like you can do anything else. It's difficult to get dressed in the morning. It's hard to get yourself motivated to even get out of bed. You're at the bottom. And it's very much like depression, because depression is a piece of it as well. When everything feels hopeless, you feel completely overwhelmed, you're totally fatigued. That is caregiver burnout. Okay, so that we know what we're talking about. That is caregiver burnout. And it can it can be caused by a lot of different things. And one thing is because it's difficult. Oftentimes caregivers are the child and you're caring for your parent. So it's a role reversal. You have been the child, but now you have to be like the parent to your child. But you also need to be respectful because they are an adult. And you're trying to care for this person whose mental capacity is diminished in most cases, and it was in all the ones of my caregiving experience. And it's very difficult, and it's hard to understand. And a lot of people feel like it's a totally uncomfortable situation, so I mean to say there. A lot of people feel like, well, once they take over caring for the parent, then the parent's going to get better. Because then, maybe they've been living by themselves or with their spouse, but once you move in or you move them in with you, then things are going to get better. They're going to remember more. They're going to feel better because you're going to take care of their diet. You're going to make sure they get some exercise. And then you become completely disillusioned when you realize they're not getting better. But the reality of dementia is they don't get better. It is a one-way street, unfortunately. And currently there is no cure. There are things that you can do to make it a little better and to ease some of the symptoms and things, but there is no cure. And so for caregivers, one of the big things is realizing and just coming to accept the fact that you can't make them remember things. You can't make them think clearly. You can't improve the situation. No amount of love is going to change that. And that acceptance will give you peace.
Yeah.
So there's, and then another, thing that causes a lot of frustration is just the lack of control, because
yes,
you can't control it. You can't control what they do, say and do things that they never would have done before. My sweet little mother-in-law who never said a bad word of anyone, I never heard her say a cuss word or anything. And all of a sudden she has Alzheimer's and she is cussing me and throwing things at me. I'm like, who is this person?
I have to laugh, Debbie, because, and you have to laugh, folks, sense of humor, because Matt's mom, who had Alzheimer's, she was a very quiet woman. And and I didn't know anything about Alzheimer's 20 years ago, so when she was accusing me of stealing and yelling and screaming, I'm like, who is this woman? And then when Matt started to curse, that was really funny because Matt didn't curse, and Josh thought that was hysterical. I mean, he just thought that was. And the first time Matt cursed in a department store, crowded department store, and we just laughed because, I mean, what else can you do? You can't tell them, oh, don't talk like that, because they're going to talk like that.
And they're not going to remember you said don't talk like that.
Right. It's just really, you have to, and you do develop, I did, a kind of like a twisted sense of humor to help you get through caregiving, because they say things, as you know, Debbie, and, we can't take it personal, and it's hard. It's really hard not to take it personal. I know, to me at the time, my mother-in-law was telling everybody I was stealing. She even knocked on the neighbor's door and said I was stealing her house. And they didn't know me. Of course, nobody called up to tell us anything, but I found out after the fact. And, Matt would, as he progressed, he would say, oh, how he loves us and we're the greatest, and next thing he's cursing us out. So,
right. And you have to laugh, like you said.
Yeah.
Because it's just, it's a disease of the brain. And if someone has dementia, two parts of their brain are actively dying, not shrinking, dying. And so it's very important then that we recognize that is the disease, that's not the person. Matt, he did not cuss. That is not him cussing at you. That's the disease. And that's what I had to do with my mother-in-law. I completely separated the two because my mother-in-law loved me. I loved her. We were very close. And then all of a sudden she's telling me, I'd sell you if I could, but nobody'd pay any money for you. just like, well, sorry,
That's funny.
Yeah, because there's nothing you can do, but it doesn't change my opinion of her. She was a wonderful woman. That was all the disease. And the reason that Alzheimer's causes them to cuss many times and use foul language many times, and that's because the bad words, as we label them, are stored in a different piece of the brain. And it's one of the later ones to be attacked by Alzheimer's. So the section of the brain that's first attacked is your logical thinking and your memory. And so those start to go first, but when those are really shrinking down tremendously, that section of the brain that stores all those bad words is still going strong. But the filter has been now removed. So without a filter to keep them in, they pop out because they don't understand that it's a bad word anymore. So
yes.
So we just need to give them some grace, and we need to understand what's going on, and that's part of what comes into a way, of prevention, which we'll talk about a little bit later too. But anyway, I'm just getting out of order. Sorry about that. Anyway,
that's okay.
Go ahead.
The conversation goes, where it goes. I used to tell Josh it's Mr. Alzheimer's coming out. It's not.
Yes.
That's not your dad. That's the monster, yeah. Mr. Alzheimer's. And you know what, Debbie, you said something very important, and I want to emphasize. You said that the brain is dying. Mm-hmm. That's true, folks, and this is why, education is so important. Mm-hmm. Debbie and I, we talked about our experiences, so you don't make the same mistakes that we made. We're not looking for sympathy. Mm-hmm. We want to help educate you to be a better yes. caregiver, because I'll tell you from my experience between my mother-in-law and Matt, having education made a world of difference for me and mm-hmm. To be a better caregiver. But, people try to reason with their loved ones, and I'm like, you can't reason with them. That's gone.
No. Right.
And
right.
that's hard to accept. Yes.
Right.
That's really hard to accept. So I think when caregivers understand that, not that it makes their job easier, but they'll know why they can't reason with your loved one. Because it's very important to know. Yes.
Correct. It makes more sense to us then. Mm-hmm. Well, we have the logical brain. We can use the rational brain. They can't. And so it's up to us to be the rational one, to educate ourselves like you were talking about, so that we understand that, and then it's easier for you to separate the person from the disease when you understand. But if I could just back up just a little bit and talk
sure.
about some of the symptoms of caregiver burnout, because
yes, please do. Yes.
Because I had these symptoms, but I, again, did not know that it was part of caregiver burnout. But if our listeners understand that if they relate and say, oh, I'm having that trouble, this can be a sign of caregiver burnout. That means you need to get some help. And we'll talk about where you can get help in places like that later. But first off, so some of the things that are warning signs. I was having headaches every day, and they were stress-induced headaches. And caregiving is very stressful. And at one point in time, I had my mother-in-law with Alzheimer's, my dad with Parkinson's, and my mom with vascular dementia. Super stressful. So I was having continuous headaches, but I did not realize that was a symptom. If you're withdrawing from your friends, family, and other people that you normally like spending time with, but suddenly you're just not really wanting to, not feeling like company, wanting to be alone, that's a sign. If you've got, if you're losing interest in activities that you used to enjoy doing, or feeling blue, irritable, depressed, hopeless, and helpless, those are big ones. Those are depression signs that are directly related to caregiver burnout. And changes in your appetite, hungry or not hungry at all. Either one can be a sign. If you're having trouble sleeping, or you're getting sick a lot more often, just feeling sick, not really good, but you can't really define it, there's another symptom for you. And then some people use alcohol or sleep medications, start using that to help cope, and that's a coping mechanism, which is also a warning sign. And you're becoming irritable with your loved one. And this just really becomes a downward spiral because you get irritated with them because you're exhausted. You're so tired. And I know every situation is different, But with my mother-in-law, she was busy at night, and she'd be up doing things. You know, she'd be up at 2 a.m. was a big time for her to be up and about and doing whatever. And at one time, we had installed the door chimes so that I knew when the front door opened, because of course we would keep the door locked, but she knew how to unlock it. And then we tried the latch up high, and that didn't work either, because then she just pushed a chair over and climbed up on a chair and unlocked the door, which is really dangerous. You're thinking about somebody in their 80s up on a chair, you know. Like, oh no, yes. Broken hip, here we come. So we invented some other things to do to keep her safe. But at this point in time, she got the door open, got the latch undone, pushed the chair out of the way, went outside. So then the chime sounded, so I knew she went outside. I jump out of bed and start out after her to find her going down the sidewalk in our neighborhood at 2 a.m., totally nude.
Oh, my.
So I was like, oh, no. But, you know, you got to laugh about it and get back inside, of course, you know, and be thankful. Hey, it's 2 a.m. Nobody's awake. Nobody saw it. It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's okay. And I tell you, laughter is one of the very best things to reducing your stress, as you and I both know.
Yes.
You have to laugh about what's going on, just like you laughed about Matt saying those words in the store. You know, is it embarrassing? Sure. But you know what? Get over it. We just have to get over it and learn to laugh. I was getting my mom and my mother-in-law ready to go to the eye doctor appointment. And so I got my mom fully dressed and sat her down on the couch, and then took my mother-in-law into the bedroom to get her changed. And when I came back, my mom was back in her pajamas again. And I'm like, what are you doing? Because I left the pajamas laying on the couch. So she thought it was time to put them on, so she did. But I had to help her get dressed. You know, see how that works too? You can't put your clothes on to go somewhere, but you can quickly put your clothes on to go to bed. So anyway, I got the two of them to the appointment, and we're sitting there, and I look down, and I realize Mom has two different colored shoes on. And I'm going, my first thought was, oh, my gosh, I can't believe, and then I just grabbed it, got a hold of that thought, and threw it down and said, no, we're not going there. You know what? I got them both here. They're both fully dressed. They're wearing their glasses. They have their teeth in, and we made it on time. This is a win. This is a victory. Yes. Who cares about the shoes?
Exactly. And you know, I've done that myself. Put on my wrong shoes, two different sneakers. Went to work, didn't realize it until I looked down at my feet, and I just said, oh, well, Miss Betsy's being silly today. Hey, it happens. I've gone out with my shirt inside out, backwards.
Just embrace it.
Yeah, because you know what? I used to say, you know, you were a caregiver when, and you know that your mind is so full of stuff that you don't pay attention sometimes to the little things, like having your shirt on correctly. At least I had a shirt on.
Exactly, and mine might have been inside out. I don't know. I didn't look. That's exactly true, though. And you just, as a caregiver, you're so focused on your loved one, and you're trying to make sure that they've got their medications on time, and they're getting to all their appointments on time, and getting proper amount of eating and resting, and, you know, all these things that you're monitoring for them, that then sometimes there's no time left over for you. And you feel like, I don't have time to do anything for me because they need me. Okay, they do need you, but they need you to be at your best. They need you to be rested. When you're completely at the end of your rope and you're irritable, you're going to snap at them. And then when you snap at them, then you're beating yourself up because you feel bad that you snapped at them. And then you're just headed down that spiral like I was talking about. It's just a downward spiral. So we have to start to learn to recognize the symptoms that we talked about and realize, hey, okay, this is a sign that I need to take a break. because I now believe, like, I didn't do this, so I feel horrible. I mean, hey, I'm just asking them to do better than I did. But take a break every day, just a few minutes even. If it's 10, 15 minutes, it doesn't matter. Take a little bit of time to yourself so that you can recharge, do what you want to do something that makes you happy. And for everyone, that can be something different. It may be reading a book. It may be exercising. It may be going for a walk, whatever it is. But take a little bit of time to replenish your soul and to make you feel happy, because you're surrounded by tons of negativity all the time, all day long, and you're surrounded by problems constantly, and you need some rejuvenation put back in there. So that's something that I really encourage caregivers is to take a moment. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And like I said, it's different things for different people. Just you do you. Find what works for you. But the one thing that really helped me a lot was visualization, because it doesn't matter where you are. When I would start feeling those shoulder muscles tighten and those neck muscles tighten. Yeah, I know you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You feel yes, you feel it. You're getting wound really tight and you need a break. Then take a break, even if that's go into the bathroom and shut the door. If it's go outside and sit on the swing, whatever you do, but go to a spot that's quieter by yourself and then picture your happy place. My happy place is the beach. For some people it's a mountaintop. For some it may be the forest. Wherever it is, the place that just brings you peace and calm. Niagara Falls is great for that too. But wherever it is, picture it in your mind. Go there in your mind. And I mean, visualize it to the point that you can hear the sounds, that you can smell the smells that would be there around you. You can just relax and tell your body to relax and breathe deep. Breathe in that calm and breathe back out again. But breathe very deeply into this, in my case, the fresh ocean air. And that will bring about incredible benefits in your body. It increases endorphins. It helps you to relax. It helps your body to calm down. It's amazing what a difference that can make in just a few minutes' time. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. It won't take as long. You can just, boom, go there,
Yes, I definitely agree. Yes, I did that. I would go in the bathtub and put on John Denver music and visualize mountains or the beach and the sounds and the smells, and I found it very, very helpful. And with being irritable, I didn't realize how irritable I was. I was snapping at the children at work, and my director cut my hours down. She said, you need to take care of you. This is you don't even realize just how tightrope you are. So I went for counseling, and I highly recommend people to go for counseling and take a person to find. I had to try one or two counselors, a therapist, so you find the right one. But when you do, it is very well worth it. And I say, Debbie, that self-care is a matter of life and death for the caregiver. The mortality rate is high, and we do need to take care of ourselves, and not just, going to a spa. Not everyone could do that, but taking care of your soul and what you like to do, whatever your passion is, and to help you relax. So I just had to add that because it's so true. With my mother-in-law, talking about tight, my muscles tightened so bad I had to take muscle relaxers.
I did too. It was terrible. But you know what? You do what you have to do. But I didn't know this information that we're talking about. And, And like you were talking about, you went to talk to someone, and that's what I'm not a counselor, but I'm a consultant and a coach, if you will. And so I talk to people on Zoom all the time, because they feel like they're all alone, the family won't help, they can't get any help, they don't know where to get any help. And so I talk them through it and give them ideas and give them people and places to call and things that there's a lot of services that are free that are available that people just don't know about.
Yeah.
And then there's almost always people around you who are willing to help. But when you're in a burnout phase, it's like your vision goes from all that. You lose all that. You can't even see it, and it's right there. And so that's what I help people to find. And then I've even scripted out conversations for people to have with family members when they said, no, I've tried everything, the family member won't help. And I said, try this, and try that. And so we wrote it all out, and they, she very reluctantly did it. But then she called me back the next week, and she said, oh, my gosh, it worked. I can't believe it. She's now going to help me. And I was like, yes, yay, that's why I do what I do. I want to help you get relief. It's out there. It's available, but it's hard to see when you're in the middle of burnout. And so that's why we're doing this and talking about this, because it is so very important. And even something as simple as eating healthy. I was making sure that my loved ones were eating healthy food and they're eating on time and all this, but then I realized a lot of times I would forget to eat because I was taking care of them, helping them eat, cleaning up after they're eating, cleaning them up after they're eating, and then we're on to another thing, right? And I didn't even realize that I didn't have any food. So that can happen too. So we have to just really pay a little bit of attention to ourselves. And the biggest thing that I struggled with, and I think a lot of other people probably do as well, self-care is not selfish.
Amen.
I'm going to say that. That one's so huge. Self-care is not selfish. If you have to write it on a postcard and hang it on your refrigerator, do it. Because if something happens to you, who's going to take care of the loved one? If you are at your worst, you're not a great caregiver anyway. Sorry.
Yes, that's true.
So we have to take care of ourselves in order to better take care of them. So anyway, it's all about, it's a mind game. It's all about getting our minds wrapped around what we need to do and not feeling guilty for meeting our own needs.
Yes, that's true. And it gets really hard, I found, near the end. When Matt was up in the hospice unit, I went and I got my hair done. And then I was thinking, well, should I have done that or should I have been there that extra 2 hours? But I had to recharge, and we have to recharge our batteries. And, folks, I've discovered this. I heard about it in groups, and I learned for myself. Sometimes we have to learn for ourselves that when I was irritable and sometimes would snap, then that got irritable.
Yeah.
And our moods affect our loved ones, and they feed off of that. So, no one's a perfect caregiver. We're not saying to be perfect caregivers. Nobody is. But we're telling you how to avoid burnout so you can be a better caregiver. And, yes, you'll continue to make mistakes because we all do. But you know what? Someone like Debbie, she's here to help you. She's a wonderful resource. Go ahead,
Thank
Debbie.
You.
You're welcome.
That's fine. I appreciate that. And you're right in what you said, too. When they lose their ability to say the words or find the right words, then the feelings become enhanced, and they can feel what you are feeling. You walk into the room, you affect their mood. If you're in a good mood, they're going to be in a better mood. If you're in a bad mood, they're going to be in a bad mood. And I have watched this over and over again. We had one lady come in to help, and she'd come in and just all perky and happy, and at the door, when she's at the door, she's like, hey, how are you today? I'm here to see you, sweetheart. And my mother-in-law would be happy and would be more cooperative with her. I had to have her come in to help me with the showers. That's a whole other issue. But anyway, and the other one who came in a couple of times when that lady wasn't available didn't do that. She'd just come in very matter-of-fact and, okay, I'm here to give you your shower. And it was a struggle. It was always a struggle. So our mood does affect them, and you're right, and take a little care for ourselves, and then we can have a better mood. So very important. Good point. Great point. Good job. And in that, too, the same as me, that we have to learn to be flexible. And I think you and I have a little bit of control issues. You think that's fair?
Yeah. No, I'm a control freak, all right. So true. Yeah. Didn't know I was one until, realized that when I got older. I'm a control freak.
Yep. I didn't know I was either, but okay, I own it now. So, and the biggest thing that we can do is learn to be flexible and let go of perfectionism, because it's okay. Just like the shoes I told you about, the 2 different shoes. It's okay. It doesn't matter. There was a time in my life where I would have been mortified. I would have been very embarrassed. Now I just laugh about it. I'm like, yeah, well, okay. We got all the other stuff. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Let it go. We have to learn, because in the grand scheme of things, is that even important that our shoes didn't match? It doesn't matter at all. Her feet were still covered and protected. She's fine. Everybody's fine. So relax. Just laugh and learn to laugh. And that was another reason for the Sonshine book, Sonshine for the Soul. I use that to give it to people when they're down and they're depressed, or if they're working in a care facility and I see them doing something that's super sweet for somebody or going above and beyond for someone, I give them a copy of that book, because it brightens their day, and they'll leave it out there. And it was the only book my mom read for like a year. Made me feel so good. And she didn't even know it was about her. It was funny. So she said, that lady's so funny. I'm like, yeah, she is, Mom. So but she'll read out loud while whatever she's doing, she reads it out loud. So everybody hears whatever I give her. So I try to be very careful what I give her.
Oh, that's funny. Yes, flexibility, Debbie, is so important. I think as caregivers, we need to get over ourselves. I was very, very, rigid, and I learned I had to be flexible and just be like water, learn to bend and twist, or you're going to drive yourself nuts. I had an epiphany one day. I think I snapped at Matt. I can't get out of the house because of you, something like that. And of course, I cried and I felt bad, later, and I apologized. And I had the epiphany, you know what? Nobody wants to be dependent on someone else. Nobody wants to have dementia. And I'll eventually gain my independence. But Matt won't ever gain his independence. And that really hit me hard. That sometimes you just have to have these aha moments where you realize, you know what, it's not about me. It's not always all about me, and I can't control Matt's progression. I can only control how I react to it. And
exactly. That's exactly right. And my mom, with me, my mom and my mother-in-law were with me all through the day. And after my dad had passed and stuff, and so I had the 2 of them here. Well, my mother-in-law loved being outside in the garden with me, so it was great, because I love gardening. And we'd be happy outside, but Mom loved to stay in the house and watch movies. That's what she enjoyed doing. And so it was tough, because you have to keep your eye on both of them. And it's like, how am I going to do this,
Yeah.
And I just, praise God, somebody told me about the Daily Living Center. And it was such a blessing, because they would come and pick Mom up, take her to the Daily Living Center. She'd stay all day where she would be watched. They had an RN on staff. They would, make sure she was safe and doing activities with other people, which she loved. She loved socializing and interacting with other people. And then they'd bring her back home in the afternoon. And it was perfect. It was a wonderful situation. But my initial thought was, I don't know if I can trust them to take care of her. And I had to realize, okay, this is a little crazy here, because they're trained. I'm not the only one who knows how to take care of my mom. And caregivers, this is a really tough one, and I'm sorry, and I love you, but you're not the only one who can do what you're doing. It's okay to have help. And that's tough, and I hope nobody's mad at me, but
That's okay.
That's a hard one. It's a hard one to accept, but once I did, there was so much freedom in it. And you know what? It was better for both of us. She loved being there, interacting, staying indoors, watching movies, playing games. I was able then to stay home, be outside in the garden with my mother-in-law, doing what we enjoyed doing. And, maybe Mom was tired of it just being us for a while. She likes being around people. She's very social. So really try to find the good in the situation and try to look at it. It may be the best thing in the world for your loved one to let them go to a daily living center or let them go to a community center, senior center through the day or somewhere else. It gives both of you a break.
Yes. My mom went. My mother-in-law went 3 times a week. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
For her to go there. And Debbie, what can someone do once they have the caregiver burnout? I know therapy, they could do that, counseling.
Yes. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Like we mentioned several of them there. They need to find someone you trust, even if it's a friend that you can talk to, and share, get your feelings out, write down in a journal. That's the reason I created a journal, was so that to do that as well, because once there's something therapeutic about writing down your feelings. If you write them down, you can release them to the page, and so it helps relieve stress as well. And then I'm going through these kind of quick because I know we're getting shorter on time, but set realistic goals. Quit going for the perfectionism like we talked about earlier. Just, look for the good and be happy for what you did accomplish instead of always looking at the negative and looking at what you could have done better or should have done better. And oftentimes caregivers compare themselves to professional caregivers who work in a facility. That's not fair. They work in a facility, do their shift, and go home and relax. You can't do that when you have someone in your home. It's 24/7. So don't compare yourselves to them. Don't compare yourselves to anyone. Every situation is different. Every situation is unique, but there are still a lot of commonalities in them. So look for the good. And then take advantage of some respite care services. There's a lot available. A Google search can show you things that are available in your area. DHS is another. You can Google it. And this Department of Human Services, the Area Center on Aging can help you. And they'll tell you of other places and other things that are available in your specific area. And then another thing is to be realistic about their disease. And we talked about that, touched on that a little bit at the beginning. Acknowledge that this is getting worse, and there's nothing that I can do to prevent that. This is just the nature of the disease. So just coming to terms with that will relieve a great deal of stress for you. And then take care of yourself. Do some things, some time for you every day, just a little bit of time for you. Carve it out. Write it on your calendar. Do whatever you need to do. One thing I did for a break, I had a senior at our church who was lonely, wanted to visit with people. I had her come and sit on the couch with Mom and watch a movie with Mom. And so they were in my house. They were safe. This person was with her, and I soaked in the tub. It was like a mini vacation. It was just amazing. So there are things around. Get somebody, get some help, and then develop the tools for coping. We talked about doing the visualization, which is a great one. Deep breathing exercises. There's a lot of different things that you can do under that to cope, to reduce your stress. And then caregiver support groups are a great way, too, because you're interacting with people who are in similar situations, and they can give you different ideas, different perspectives. And that's what we talked about last year in my caregiving book, because I have 2 brothers and a sister, and sometimes we'd be in a situation where we would all handle it differently. But it all worked because we had different relationships with our mom, a different relationship with our mom. And so if you've got more options of things that you can do, all the better. And you can learn from anybody. This is not in my opinion, this is not something you go to college and learn about. This is something that you learn from people who've been in the trenches.
Yes.
Because it's different. And I think that's what helps me so much, is that I had I'm on the third time of the journey. They're all three different people, and they had three different diseases, but they were all labeled dementia. And but what worked for one wouldn't work for another. What worked for one day wouldn't work the next day. So you need a lot of different options, and caregiver support groups can provide that. So
absolutely,
anyway, yeah.
That's so. Oh, thank you, Debbie. That is so true. I learned so much from people in support groups. I didn't have support for 14 years. When I went on Facebook, 2014, I went crazy. I went crazy joining support groups, and I was so happy to hear other people thinking the same thing and thinking, wow, now I'm not alone. Because I couldn't go to a physical support group, and it was, I learned a lot. We learned from each other. This is why I'm very big on telling for people to share their experiences and their stories to help other people. And I know you, Debbie, as a veteran caregiver, and you're a present caregiver. I'm a past caregiver. I'm also a present caregiver. To share our stories, because I feel like a responsibility as a veteran caregiver to help the new caregivers coming on so they don't drown in the waters. And this is why we do what we do. And how can people get in touch with you, Debbie, and know about your the purplevine.com that you have?
Several different ways. I think you're going to put a link to my books on Amazon.
Yeah.
Those are there. And then the caregiving books are on my website, which is www.thepurplevine.com. And then if they are needing a consultation or want to talk or just need a listening ear, they can send me an email at debcompton1, that's the number 1, at gmail.com, and I can set you up with a free first consultation. And then we will discuss whatever you want to discuss, whatever issues you're having, whatever problems you're facing, and I'll help you find solutions. I guarantee you're going to leave refreshed and happier than when you came into the call.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Debbie. And I say this all the time, and I do believe it's true. If I was looking for a person to consult with, I want someone who's been in my shoes. I want someone who was a caregiver, not someone talking out of book knowledge, but someone who has lived it, because there's a difference, folks, between book knowledge and living it. Big difference.
Absolutely. And I got my book knowledge, if you will, after two of my loved ones had passed away. Then I got my certifications and did the training and things. So I have that side of it, and I have that knowledge. But that's more about what's actually going on in your brain and the reactions to it and stuff. And there's a little bit, there's some about communication too. And I did learn a lot in studying it, and a lot about how dementia affects your vision even that I didn't know. But you're absolutely right. It helps. I think that's why God had me experience it 3 times, because I'm a slow learner, and and then because they were all 3 different and different personality types and different diseases, and so I can help a wide range of people now. So I'm thankful for that. I'm so very thankful, and I just want to help people have an easier time than I had. So, and they can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on there all over the place. So,
well, thank you, Debbie Compton, for writing your books and doing what you do to help caregivers. And I want to tell the audience I highly recommend you contacting Debbie Compton. Free consultation. You can't go wrong. And to check out the books on Amazon, the links and all the information will be in the blog. So please read the blog that Jeannie White, who's station manager, does. Thank you, Jeannie. And Jeannie also produces the show. So thank you. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, CEO of Passionate World Talk Radio, that makes this all possible. And I want to thank you, the listeners. Please share the show to help someone else. And I do what I do because I want to help people. And when you share, you are helping. And I appreciate it. And it's carrying on Matt's memory. And Matt is and always will be my catalyst for doing what I do. And if you are looking for a support group, I have one, #KICK, Alzheimer's Ass Movement. You do not have to have Alzheimer's. You don't even have to be a caregiver. Please come and be educated. Debbie Compton, she's a member. Come and be educated. There's links, there's resources, and you're welcome to join. And I really believe that I am where I am because of being a caregiver. I never would have went in my car to do videos about caregiving if it wasn't for Matt. Never would I have put myself on Facebook and shown my face. And I just can't believe that what I'm doing now. And, they say God works in mysterious ways. And it's very true. And I met wonderful people. And, please subscribe to my show because I do a phenomenal guest. And I want to thank you, Debbie, for coming on again and writing your books and doing what you do. And you're just phenomenal. And I want to encourage people to reach out to you and check out your Amazon page because, you know what, I wish that there was a show when I was younger. Yeah, I was younger. I was younger. When I was caregiving, I wish I knew about people. I wish I knew about people when Matt was still alive. And that's one of the biggest passions I have is providing resources that I wish I knew about because I want people to have a better life, for their loved ones to have a better life by providing resources. And that is a huge passion of mine, and it will continue to be. And I just, as I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you could be anything, folks, please be kind, shine your light bright, and be kind to people. That's what we need to do. And I think if we all were kind and shined our light, this place would be a much happier, peaceful, kinder world. And that's what I have to say today. Thank you again for listening. And until we chat again, God bless you. Take care of yourselves. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio. Bye-bye now.